Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Steve Down. This is my guitar. If you're just joining us, we're in the second episode of our study of Milestones by Miles Davis, and we're looking at Cannonball Adderley's solo this week. So if you're just joining us, then hit rewind and go and watch the first episode. Last week we talked about what modal jazz was, some of the theory behind it, and we also learnt the head using a chord melody technique. This week we're going to look at the first 16 bars of Cannonball Adderley's alto sax solo. And we're going to look at why it's flipping awesome and why it's worth learning on the guitar. Before we do that, thanks so much for all the feedback from last week's lesson, and thanks to my new patrons, Jacob and Simon. Thanks to all of the new subscribers as well, and to Brian who bought me a coffee. If you'd like to support me, then head over to the Patreon page. The link is here and also in the show notes below. If you don't want to subscribe, then you can do a one-off thanks by buying me a coffee, and there is a link below. I definitely need a lot of coffee with all the homeschooling going on right now. If you can't afford that, it's completely understandable. All of the tabs are on the screen, and I'm sure you can use the slow down function and still get something out of this lesson. But I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button and the like button. And if you want to get regular updates on my new lessons, then hit the bell. So, on with the show. The structure of the solo is the same as the head. We've got A, A, B, A. 2 passes at the A section, which is using those chords G minor 7, A minor 7, and B flat major 7. So we're in the G Dorian area, which, if you remember, is the chords that are derived from the parental scale of F major. So that's the whole idea of the modal thing. And then we've got a B section, which moves to a different mode. We move to the A Aeolian mode, which is a mode from the parental scale of C major. Then at the end, we move back for another 8 bars, back in G Dorian again. So 2 passes at G Dorian, and we've got 16 bars of the A Aeolian, and then back for 8 bars again at the end of the G Dorian. And Cannonball Adderley takes a few passes at this. We're going to look this week at the first 16 bars at his first round of this structure. So these are the first 4 bars. This solo is absolutely beautiful, and it kind of almost seems like it's been crafted, which it definitely hasn't been. It's been improvised on the spot. The lines flow smoothly, there's an arc to the solo, the rhythm is super crisp, and the vocab is super rad as well. The one thing that pops out to me in the A section is his use of sequences. A musical sequence is basically where you take a line or a motif and you repeat it at a higher pitch. This is actually something that classical composers used. You can see with this famous piece of music, the motif, which is known as the Fate motif, is moved around. So the 5-bar motif that you hear at the beginning is moved around in various different ways at various different pitches. And he does this for a huge portion of the first movement of the 5th Symphony. It's not surprising that Cannonball would use this kind of technique in his improvisation. His dad was a music teacher, and he became a music teacher himself before moving from Florida to New York in 1955. Cannonball is taking all of this stuff from the G Dorian scale, which is this scale. He starts off his 1-bar sequence on the 6th note of the scale, and then he moves up and starts it on the tonic, and then on the flat 3rd, and then finally up an octave on the 6th, kind of editing the rhythm ever so slightly. Absolute genius. You could try something similar yourself by basically finding a 1-bar motif and then moving it through some of the chord tones of the chord. So if you start really simply with a G minor 7 chord, then you can move it through G, B flat, D, and F. So something simple like this. So let's take a look at the next 4 bars. In this section, we see Cannonball doing the same thing, but in reverse, basically. He plays a sequence and going up 3 notes in the scale, and then jumping down a minor third. And then he repeats the same thing, but starting, instead of on the B flat, on the G. So going up 3 notes from the G, and then jumping down a minor third. Now, you could continue this all the way down, like this. He doesn't do this though. After the first 2 passes of the sequence, he decides to go outside. The reason for doing this is just to create some tension with the object of resolving it a little bit later on. This is something that you see an awful lot in jazz. It's hard to know what he would have been thinking here. He could have been thinking going up in a minor third, or he could have been thinking I'm going to try and make a G minor major 7 sound by adding in an F sharp into the mix. Whatever he's doing, he's creating something which is outside sounding. You can practice this kind of thing yourself by basically sticking on a G minor 7 loop and then playing a line in G minor, and then over the top, whilst the G minor is still going, you can play the same line, but just 3 frets up in B flat land, basically creating something that is outside sounding. And then you can resolve it back again to G minor. Something like this. The next thing he does is he descends from D to B by the way of E. Now, it's hard to know again what he's thinking here, but the chord underneath is an A minor 7. So what I think he's doing is to kind of be really creative. I think he's borrowing from the A Aeolian scale. And so this B note here, which isn't in G Dorian it's a B flat. This note of B that he's playing in his solo and really resting on, I think he's seeing as the 9th of A minor, like that. So that B there is the 9th from A minor. So I think he's creating a bit of an A minor 9 sound. In Miles's autobiography, which is awesome by the way, and well worth a read, Miles says this, and I'm going to read from my iPad because I haven't memorised it all. The challenge here when you work in the modal way is to see how inventive you can become melodically. It's not like when you base stuff on chords and you know at the end of 32 bars that the chords have run out and there's nothing to do but repeat what you've done with the variations. What Cannonball's just done here is an incredible example of that. He's being so creative in how he's approaching this solo. So let's move on to the next 4 bars. At the start of these 4 bars, he uses an approach which Coltrane actually used. I have no idea who invented this approach, but Coltrane has basically made it very popular. Basically what Coltrane does is he takes major pentatonic fragments that appear naturally within a scale. So here what Cannonball's doing is he's taking an F major pentatonic scale and then a B flat major pentatonic scale. And they both occur naturally within the G Dorian scale. The other major pentatonic scale that occurs naturally within it is the C, but he doesn't use that here. For the cascades, I'm using a legato approach. This is fairly tricky, so you'll probably want to slow this down. He starts off by using this tritone from E flat to A, and then there's a flurry going down to F. So slowly I'm doing it like this. So pull-offs and then a slide at the end. And then there's a similar approach again. This is that sequential thing, starting on the note that you've held at the end of that first sequence, the D, going down through C, B flat, A, and then heading to G. So, and you can see I'm using pull-offs for the first, on that one there, pulling off to C, pulling off to B flat, and then sliding back to A, and then picking G. And then the last one, I'm picking F, pulling off to E, and then picking the last three notes, D, C, and then to B flat. So like that. And the sequence itself, he's heading for D on here, which is the fifth of G, and then heading to G itself, and then heading to B flat. So fifth tonic and the flat third there. So again, it's the sequence where he's basically outlining a G minor chord. In this last section, he's focusing around B flat major 7 sharp 11, which is a Lydian thing that occurs naturally within the parental scale F major. So this is another modal thing that he's doing here. So the B flat Lydian scale is basically a scale that starts on B flat but uses the notes of the F major scale as we go up. So this is the scale. And the difference between a B flat Lydian scale and a B flat major scale, and what gives it its flavour, is the E that's in there. So because we're using the notes from the F major scale, the F major scale has an E natural in it. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. And so obviously if we start on the B flat, then as we go through, B flat, C, D, E, we've got an E there. Now if we were in B flat major, we'd have an E flat, wouldn't we? B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. So the Lydian mode is the scale that is built off of the fourth note of the major scale, which is B flat. And this is what Cannonball's doing here. So this line that he's playing, he's basically playing around with that whole idea. So he's bringing out that E, going to B flat. So he's starting on the major 7, going up the B flat major 7 arpeggio, then going down through G, F, and then E natural, and then to B flat. And then we've got some nice kind of like bebop kind of chromatic approach notes. It's a very kind of bebop-y phrase there. And again, he's bringing out, he's really, really kind of squeezing out that Lydian sound there. Miles was kind of famous around this time for giving his compositions to his musicians on the day, so not giving them very much time to actually kind of analyse this music. In numerous interviews, he said that the reason why he did this was basically just to kind of create a raw creative approach and capture that kind of first time. Because he wasn't giving his musicians any time to overanalyze the music. Quite often the earliest takes would be the ones that would be used as masters. I'm not sure, I couldn't find out which take this was, but I found an alternate take, like one other. So I can only assume that there would only have been a few takes of this. And even though there probably was flaws within there, I can't hear any, but even though there was flaws within the actual take itself, he still used those takes because the vibe was there. So this is a approach which is used today. A producer that I've worked for called Lack of Afro uses this approach. When I recorded some guitars for this album, he gave me the music on the day. And even though I could hear some flaws and inaccuracies within my playing, he still used those early takes. And within those early takes, even though you've got those flaws and inaccuracies, there's a certain vibe, a certain excitement that is created by having that music given to you on the day. And that's kind of captured in those first couple of takes. And that's what Miles does. And that's what I believe he did on this track. And he also did on the album Kinda Blue. So thanks for watching, if you got this far, and happy practicing with this stuff. Remember that if you want all of the backing tracks and the transcriptions and the exercise packs, they're all over on the Patreon channel, so the link is here. And if you want to support me, then you can buy a coffee as a one-off thing. The link is below. But if you can't afford any of that, I know it's really tough times at the moment. So if you can't afford any of that, then just use the slow down function that's on YouTube. I think it's down in the bottom right-hand corner. And all of the stuff's on the screen. But don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button on the way. And hit the bell if you want to get an update when the next lesson is. Have fun with it. Happy practicing, and I'll see you next week. Bye.